You are listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank, your partner in possible.
I don't know if I've ever had more to talk about on Best Everything before, but this show is packed with everything that you need to know. We have to start off, let's see. The Kansas Jayhawks football team just went to 3 overtimes against the Arkansas Razorbacks in the Liberty Bowl, and unfortunately lost a heartbreaking one, 55-53. But what an incredible season by the Jayhawks football team. Now, we also have the Mizzou Hoops, and they are on the rise right now. They just defeated Illinois and they just defeated Kentucky. 2 massive wins. We talk about that a little bit later. We have the Kansas State Wildcats in the Sugar Bowl playing Alabama on Saturday. And Kansas City Chiefs will take on the Denver Broncos this Sunday. But we're going to rewind a little bit and talk about last week's win versus the Seattle Seahawks. Now, on the breakdown this week, Matt Castle talks about who else? Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes. And one of the big plays that Travis Kelce had, one of his long catches, fun fact, his yard after catch is the highest among all wide receivers and tight ends in the NFL right now this year, which is incredible. He's 33 years old and he just keeps getting better with age. But on the breakdown this week, they talked about Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes. Now, they have a very close-knit relationship, but on the field, they just seem to connect even better.
Right, they're in 12 personnel, and what I love about this is they're going to motion Travis down, which helps with getting him a release into the second level of the defense. But again, it's the play action right here. You've got the slash by the tight end going back. You've got Jerick McKinnon coming over here, faking that run. But then it's truly a progression read. You've got the bench route down here by Sky Moore. Travis Kelce is going to run the deep crosser, and then you've got the post over the top. So if that safety wants to get involved with Travis Kelce, you've got a shot over the top. Again, it's progression. So it's truly left to right read here. What I love about it was after the play action, you see Patrick Mahomes drop back. He's got great protection. He could have thrown the ball to Sky Moore, but he could see that there was 2 stiff linebackers in the middle of that field right there. And there's the first window that he's going to get into right here, but it's the second window throw right here with anticipation, and it is an absolute dime and leads to a 52-yard reception. Travis Kelce, obviously, tremendous yak yards when he gets the ball in his hands after the catch, but it was a huge play to set up that final touchdown. And it's just a thing of beauty to watch Patrick Mahomes right here, because the anticipation, when you see it from this angle, you'll have a better appreciation for when he threw it. Boom. Just on the money, baby. Yeah, catch and run. I always like to say, hand it off, my friend, hand it off.
That is just beautiful. And once he sees Jordan Brooks in space, that's the guy that's going to have to make a play on this. He just knows, let me put it out there. Kelsey's going to beat him to the spot for that ball and have a chance to do something with it. And you'll see, too, the other thing I want to point out here is when you go back to the sideline angle, we talked about it really early on, even though the Chiefs, missed the speed element of Tyreek Hill, that there is a lot of speed still on that field when you got guys like Marquez Valdez-Scantling. And watch, as he goes vertical here, watch the safety in the middle of the field, Quandre Diggs, how he just hauls ass, just bails and hauls after him, and how that opens up this window for Kelce as well. You see
he's scared to death, right?
The line of scrimmage.
He's scared to death.
Yeah, and at that point, Mahomes knows there's no other DB threat that's going to be able to make a play on this ball on Kelce. So it's just a matter of beating those linebackers, which he does easily.
Yeah, I just love this throw. I love the anticipation and also the understanding for what's taking place, because the play design, like you said, you put MVS on the outside and let him run that post, because if for some reason Quandre Diggs does get involved with Kelce, and then you've got the shot over the top, right? But he doesn't. He gets tremendous depth. He knows that MVS can knock the top off of any coverage. So he's got to give depth, which allows Travis Kelce into that window behind the linebackers.
More beautiful play calling, more beautiful execution. It's the story of this Chiefs offense, and it's what makes them so fun to watch and so fun to study the coaching tape of and go back through these games, because There's nobody that does it better than Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, and it really is. You got to appreciate the fact that we get this, and we've gotten this for so many years now, and we should continue to get it for so many years to come.
Yeah, it's an exciting offense to watch, and the marriage between Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. I mean, it's been one of the most successful that I can remember in a long time in this league, and the dominance just continues. And again, the fun part too about this season is there were so many question marks coming into the season, the Tyreek Hill trade, all this, that, and the other. But the way in which they're playing and the way in which Patrick Mahomes is playing is just a whole nother element to his game, which makes it so interesting to watch as a fan. And I hope people appreciate how difficult that is to do, but at the same time, how easy he makes it look.
An exciting time indeed for the Kansas City Chiefs of football, and an exciting time in Kansas Jayhawk football as well. The Kansas Jayhawks unfortunately just lost in the Liberty Bowl, but it was a barn burner. The Jayhawks went to 3 overtimes with the Arkansas Razorbacks to ultimately lose 55-53. But the Jayhawks stayed in it. The Jayhawks were all over social media. Everyone was talking about them. And on Ain't No Seats this week, the guys talk about just that and how successful of a season the Jayhawks had because of this.
At the end of the day, before we get into all the analysis, I just want to say, like, you've got to love this team. Like, I know they did some frustrating things. I know they lost the game. But if you walk away from that bowl game with anything other than just absolute love for this KU football team, you're crazy. What they did for this program this year and the way they just fought till literally the last second possible. I love this team. Feel bad they couldn't get it done, but that was a heck of a football game last night. An all-timer and one that I'm not sure. I mean, wins matter, but like we're going to talk about the game in a good way forever, and we certainly wouldn't have had we not made that comeback in the fourth. So that's how I wanted to start it. Now we can get into. I'll give you the floor, B-turn, get your thoughts off, and then we can start to really analyze what we all want to talk about.
Yeah, I was just going to say they fought and battled all year, like you said, and especially on the road. We've talked about it on the pod all year, how they started slow on the road all year. At West Va, at Houston, they're down 14. They win those games. Obviously, a huge reason they go bowling. Baylor, they're down 28-3. They have a chance to get a stop late and win that game. So I guess you could never give up on this team. They fought till the end, no matter what. Even at Oklahoma, they battled. So got to be super proud. And just obviously you can be upset with losing, but think about the guys. Like they were gut-wrenched after the game. You saw Kenny Logan laying in the end zone, and this team is the start of the new era, and they put in a ton of work this offseason. So they are just absolutely heartbroken after coming back from down 25.
Yep. AB, what's kind of your takeaway? It's our first time with a bowl game. It is kind of weird. You sit there and it's like, okay, yeah, we want to win this game, but like at the end of the day, who cares? Like, what was we want to win, but like also, do you feel good about the performance? Are you happy with how it went? What's your takeaway from it?
Yeah, and I was telling you before we got on, but like I wasn't like really worried about the outcome of the game. Like I was excited to see it happen, and really like the important stuff that's actually going to help going forward happened in the last month with a whole extra month of practice. Just being able to say you went to a bowl game is like a big step for the program. So at the end of the day, like I was never sad when they're getting blown out, or at the end, like, yeah, you want to win the game, but at the end of the day, it's a glorified scrimmage that's very fun. And It was just cool to be back in that spot. All of Twitter was talking KU football last night with the comeback and the cover. It was just the experience overall. It made everything successful as far as the season goes.
Well, another team that everyone is talking about is the Mizzou basketball team. Now, Mizzou hoops, whenever we recorded the show, Mizzou, that's who, it was before they played Kentucky this week, but after they defeated Illinois. And on Mizzou, that's who, Gabe, Tucker, and Maggie sat down and talked about the Tigers should be ranked, and now even more so. They just beat Kentucky. They just had 2 amazing wins, Illinois and Kentucky, and Mizzou is back. Mizzou basketball is back. And on Mizzou, that's who, they talked about that this week.
I'm looking at the AP poll because Illinois dropped all the way out. They dropped out. They received some votes, 65 votes. Missouri received 57 votes.
Can we just do the disclaimer saying this doesn't matter in college basketball on December 28th or whatever it is?
Doesn't matter at all. Glad we put that out there. But Missouri received 57 votes. Kind of a big deal. When was the last time Missouri was ranked? I probably should have looked that up before the podcast started, but that was just a thought that I had.
With Drew Smith.
And they were ranked after they beat Alabama.
Last year they were?
2 years ago.
Or 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago, January. Yeah.
Okay.
And then they lost 9 out of 11 or something at the end of the year. But they were ranked. Maybe even top 10. I want to say they went to number 9 in the country or something.
I do think that I do vaguely remember them being a top 10 team at one point and being like, hey, maybe we got something here. And then the wheels just completely falling off the wagon.
My funniest thing about this, and I tweeted about it earlier today, was that back during football season, when Kansas played a cupcake schedule, leading up to their first 5 wins, is West Virginia, and they were giving up 50 points and stuff like that. They get to 5-0, and the nation is ready to call them America's team, gave them college game day, threw them in the teens and rankings. And it's the situation is reversed, because obviously they were one of the worst football teams in the country for years. We're definitely one of the worst Power 5 basketball teams in the country last year. But everybody will just be like, no, bad schedule. Terrible schedule. You can't put even if we just smacked Illinois. But it's just funny to me. It's just
you hope that it doesn't continue to follow Kansas football, because they ended up 6-6. Kansas football shouldn't have been ranked. They should have paid more attention to that schedule, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think I don't think it's unfair that Missouri's not ranked right now. I think it's okay. They've got 1.5 good wins, and the best team they played blew them out of the gym by half. They win on Wednesday. They're going to be ranked going to Arkansas.
Yeah,
I don't think there's any question about that.
Yep. Yeah. That's a big game. In a game that Missouri basketball will be playing, Kansas football will be playing without any water. So that's fun. I think this game's going to be really interesting, because I'm looking at the KenPom numbers here. Missouri's offense is 7th in the country, according to KenPom, at 116. Now their defense, on the other hand, not that high. It's 148th. And I think that's the biggest thing that I took away from this Missouri game against Illinois is defensively, they look like a completely other team. I don't know what happened to that team that we had seen the first 12 games of the season, 11 games of the season, but then they showed up and played lights out defensively. If they can play like that, and I think it was they were in a 1-3-1 zone, and then went match man and trap man zone. They were doing a lot of stuff on the defensive side of the ball that I liked, and I don't think that they should ever leave that 1-3-1 zone, just because I think it works so well for them. Just the personnel that they have, and Dennis knows, obviously. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure he's listening to this podcast thinking, I wonder what Tucker thinks we should do on the defensive side of the ball.
I'm guessing not. Yeah.
Could be, though.
CY might be, though.
Yeah.
Shout out CY.
Shout out CY. But no, that's what I was really impressed with, was the defense. Obviously, Kobe Brown scoring 31's eye-popping, but the defensive side of the ball was a huge factor in that game.
Now, Mizzou basketball also took on the Kansas Jayhawks basketball team earlier this year in what everyone knows as the Border War. And we have our own show at Kansas City Sports Network called Border War, where Jeff Hawkins and Jarrett Sutton, both respectively from Kansas and Mizzou, talk about the Border War and their teams. And on Border War this week, Jarrett talks about the Mizzou Tigers and how much they've bounced back, and how much they've changed as a team since the loss to the Jayhawks at home. And Jeff Hawkins even puts his perspective into it, being a Jayhawks fan, on what it means to really improve this much by the Tigers and how bought in the team is to this coach.
We're seeing a totally different team, Jeff, than what we were talking about post Kansas, when they looked terrible defensively. They were really struggling on offense too, taking bad shots. And it didn't take long. The UCF game, they got off to a slow start and really just had to find a way to win. But these last 2 games against legit competition, it looks like they've put it all together, where they're firing all cylinders on offense. They're better in the half court. Kobe Brown has emerged and back-to-back 30-point games. if he has if there's a third one and they go to Arkansas next, he's flirting with Steph Curry in terms of those 30-point games against ranked competition. And that's a stat that's not been topped since Steph did it when he was at Davidson. So what they're doing, they're second in effective field goal percentage in the country right now. Their defense has picked up over the last few games. It's a testament to Dennis Gates. And that's where I want to start. But your overall impressions of what you're seeing from Missouri too, since the Kansas debacle, and then finding a way to beat UCF. But these last two wins have really put Mizzou on the college basketball map. They're the most talked about team right now.
Man, hey, it's a lot that I could say. Kobe, Demoy, it's a lot of guys. Just the whole program as a whole. But man, and I hate saying but because it counters what you're saying. I just so I'll say and Dennis Gates though, man, jeez, for him to be able to make the adjustments that he's made the last 3 games and to really get these guys. They were already fighting for him. That's the weird thing about it. They were already fighting for him. They're already believing in him. But it's really cool to see, when they played KU, you had that loss, to really see how your guys believe in you after a loss. And are they going to still be fired up? Are they still going to be paying attention to detail? And they were. And that just, again, that is, like you said, a testament to Coach Gates. I mean, he has these guys believing, playing hard, playing together, caring for one of another, and they're doing it on the offensive end. I mean, they're doing it on the offensive end, they're doing it on the defensive end. It's just my thoughts on Missouri. It's cool to watch, although I am a Jayhawk fan. It's cool to watch though, because I'm a basketball fan at the end of the day.
While basketball season is here, we still have some bowls left to go. And on Saturday, when this show comes out, we have Kansas State taking on Alabama in the Sugar Bowl. And while Kansas State did win the Big 12 championship after defeating TCU, ultimately TCU went to the college football playoff, and Kansas State is playing an angry Alabama in the Sugar Bowl. But on 3 Mile this week, DY, Cole, and John talked about this game and how actually everyone's playing, which is kind of unheard of for a bowl game. Usually you have some guys sit out, they're draft eligible. You have some guys, I don't want to get hurt, transfer portal, etc. But Kansas State should be full strength going into the game against Alabama.
Alabama's a really solid defense. I know I'm not breaking any news by, sharing that. But when they have been vulnerable, it's been against the run. And notoriously, through Nick Saban's career at Alabama, the teams that have bit them the most have been teams with a running quarterback. And I just think there's a part of me deep down, and I can't get away from it, that believes that Kansas State's best asset in this game might be Adrian Martinez's legs.
Yeah, I mean, look at Jaden Daniels for LSU, quarterback, ran for nearly 100 against him this year. Robbie Ashford, the Auburn quarterback, I think second or third stringer, when they knew Auburn was only going to run the ball, ran for 140 against Alabama. Traditionally, Nick Saban, you pointed this out when we recorded Power Cat Game Day, DY, Nick Saban's teams have struggled against dual threat quarterbacks. So I certainly think there's going to be some plays built in for Adrian Martinez. And you also have the security blanket of having Adrian against what's a physical defense that's helpful, in the way you dictate and call plays in this game, just knowing you've got 2 viable quarterbacks that you can throw out on the field. And look, I told DY this last night when we were talking. I would not be surprised if K-State puts both on the field for a play or two and sets up some sort of trick play. Will Howard throwing it out to Adrian, a double pass, setting something up like that. But yeah, I mean, look, if you're in a 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, short yardage, it very well could be Adrian that goes out there at quarterback too, to give the run threat option of deucing him. So I think there's a lot of different things, packages that you can implement. And the bottom line is I just feel a lot better having 2 experienced quarterbacks available for this game.
Yeah. And I think the Kansas State receivers have probably overachieved by far this year if they had a really good season, but there's a difference between who they've done it against and doing it against Alabama's secondary. And you got to wonder what those windows look like for Will Howard. Everyone's a little bit faster. Everybody's a little bit stronger. Everybody's a little bit longer. I just think, almost that neutralizer for Kansas State, and it kind of harkens back to like the Bill Snyder offense, right? You try to get the extra blood. I don't know. There's a part of me that says maybe the best way to win is with Adrian Martinez's leg. when you're going up against a challenge like Alabama.
Well, the committee put TCU into the college football playoff, and Kansas State is getting an angry Alabama, like I said, which Alabama did not make the college football playoff. But another committee, or another voting thing, we shall say, is the MVP race for the NFL. And a lot of people are speculating maybe it's Jalen Hurts this year. But if you look at the numbers, it should be, again, Patrick Mahomes. And on one-on-one this week, Jeff Allen and Mike DeVito talked about that and Patrick Mahomes. He's having an MVP season, and everyone's kind of just become accustomed to it. And they're just so used to Mahomes being Mahomes and just these tremendous plays, these amazing stats, and everyone's just kind of like, yeah, that's Mahomes. And we've become so used to what he's actually doing. It's incredible. But what else the Chiefs are doing well, and they need to do more of, is running the ball. They have Isaiah Pacheco, who's Mr. December right now. He's having an amazing December, and the Chiefs can run the ball. Jeff Allen has a really incredible stat in this short clip that I'm going to share from one-on-one that talks about how important running the ball is in NFL games.
He's the best quarterback in football. He's going to be the MVP in my opinion. You always want him to control the game and have the ball in his hand when it matters the most. If there's a situation, the game on the line, I want Patrick to dictate it.
Exactly.
I'm not saying that, but I'm saying throughout the game, we need to dictate, as an offensive line, what the tempo is going to be.
Right.
How physical are we going to be? And it's going to give Patrick even more opportunity to take shots down the field. And naturally, during these times, especially us being an outdoor team, if we don't get this number 1 seed and we go on the road to Buffalo, the conditions aren't going to lend themselves to passing the ball 40 times.
Yeah, right.
They're going to have to run the football because it's going to be windy. It's going to be cold. Receivers are going to drop passes because of the weather. There's going to be a ton of different things that will tell you, run the damn football.
Right.
So we need to gear up for that right now.
You know what I'd love to see too, Jeff, is some of the old school. Give me 21 personnel, 22 personnel. We do a show. I do a show with Derek and Craig on KCSN on with DJ and Craig on Thursdays. And last week we just watched a bunch of runs from the previous game, and it's funny because you look at, and we've been doing this all year, and you look at run games nowadays and how and what sort of what the
formations,
concept, formations, concepts, and all of it is stuff that when you and I were playing back 2013, 14, would have been just third down runs. Mm-hmm. Now third down runs, just all the runs, right? Everything's out of 11 and 12 personnel. Yep. One back runs, zone read stuff.
Spread them out. RPOs.
I would love to see some 22 personnel. Man, get some 20. And go behind those two big guys up front. Go behind Trey Smith on a double team power. It's like that's what I'd love to see. Boy, that would get me fired.
That's punishing. We see it from time to time. Usually short yardage when we come out with the fullback.
Yeah.
2 tight end sets and run power. We call it God's play.
God's play. That's right.
That's a beautiful. It's a beautiful play, man.
That's it, man.
You physically impose your will. Everybody knows based upon the formation what's coming.
What's going on?
You got all big bodies in there. It's us versus you. Who's going to be better?
Ooh, I love that.
That's a beautiful thing, man.
There is nothing better than when you're strapping up the chin strap and you're getting down into your stance in one of those situations.
Yeah.
Like it's just palpable, the feeling. It's just a different feeling. That short yardage, goal line, like let's get after it. Boy, I'd love to see some of that.
I mean, and I don't know the actual statistic, but when you rush for a touchdown during a game, I want to say it's like a 70% chance that you win that game.
Really?
Like your odds go way up when you rush for a touchdown.
Wow.
And offensive line coaches talk about that all the time. And no matter who your coach is, that's one of those statistics that they have in their back pocket. And I'm sure they're in the staff meetings mentioning it. They're on the table like, hey, we need to run the ball a little bit more.
Man.
But that's just what the game is just different now, obviously.
It is, yeah.
And I do like the game now. It's more fun in my opinion.
Yeah.
Well, the Chiefs definitely need to continue rushing the ball this week. It'll be a little warmer than last week, but I don't know if it could be much colder than it was last weekend in Kansas City. It was pretty miserable for people that were at the game. But this week, They take on the Denver Broncos, and there's a lot happening in Denver. Russell Wilson, he's cooking, but it's the wrong recipe. I don't know what he's cooking. It's not turning out well. They just fired their head coach. So people are up right now. People are fired up. Okay, we have a new coach, new interim head coach, and we need to rally behind Russ. You know, there's some articles that have come out kind of bashing Russell Wilson, and the team's rally behind him, but a lot of people are fighting for their jobs in Denver right now. Whereas the Chiefs, they have the AFC championship, or they have the AFC West championship nailed down. They got that, but they're still fighting for the 1 seed in the AFC. And that is very important considering only one team gets a bye now. And we have the Bills and the Bengals that are going to the playoffs. So on KC Lab this week, Craig and Matt sit down to talk about their predictions for this game against the Broncos and their prediction for Monday night's Bills versus Bengals game.
I think the Chiefs are a class above them. I think that the offense for the Broncos is not going to be able to move the ball particularly well. I think they're going to get into a hole again. Chiefs are going to jump out on them, get them in a hole again, and this time they're not coming back. So I think the Chiefs are going to win this one 35-10.
Teams play really good for interim head coaches. They really do. Like the first week they play very well. It's like all of a sudden there's this new energy. Guys want to impress. Maybe you buy into the I'm earning my paycheck for the next guy. I'm auditioning, whatever it is. Teams, the NFL level, even in college, they seem to play really hard for an interim coach the very first game. Like that seems to be where it comes in, right? So what will the Broncos do? This is why I don't know if I buy fully into this. Boy, those guys sure seem to hate Russell Wilson. Like, boy, does those guys out there on the field sure seem to dislike their starting quarterback. Like, what are you going to do
on defense?
When you're out there and you're trying to put your best foot forward for this new interim coach, and like everything about it just seems to relate to you playing really well. But then on the other hand, the backup quarterback's having to come talk to you and almost getting into fist fights because he's trying to defend this Russell Wilson character that you absolutely despise with every ounce of your being. What's going to happen? I feel like the Broncos come out, they play kind of tough to start the game. It looks like it's going to be a little bit of a mud fight out there between both sides. I think the Chiefs kind of start executing. They look like they belong in a different class. At some point in time, it no longer becomes worth it to give 125% to not just, an interim coach that wasn't with you all year, but also to Russell Wilson. And I think kind of by halftime, I don't think the Broncos necessarily quit, but they just very much start to check out a little bit. And then, God, next week might be really ugly for that football team. I don't even know who they play, but they might be real ugly come next week. So I think you get a half of them trying. I still think the Chiefs take this one 27-12 is what we're going to go with in this one. But I think the beginning of the game is going to be a little ugly. I have another prediction. I need you to make a prediction that's not the score.
Bengals win.
Broncos head coach next year. Yeah, that's a good one too. I'm also predicting the Bengals. So we should touch on that real quick. Everybody in here is a Bengals fan. We want the Bills to lose. We do have to, in fact, root for Joe Burrow.
The Bengals can win this one game, and then we can continue to dislike them after that.
So for the 1 week and 1 week only, everyone is a Bengals fan this week and a fan of Joe Burrow. Hopefully they knock off the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen so that the Chiefs can reclaim the number 1 seed and have a bye headed into the playoffs. But the Kansas City Chiefs will have their work cut out for them when they have a angry Denver Broncos, Russell Wilson, all of that madness going on. And they have a couple bumpy weeks right now with the Raiders coming up the following week, and just a mess there with Derek Carr being out or whatever you may have it. But the Chiefs will take on the Denver Broncos Sunday. Kansas State will take on Alabama Saturday. And Mizzou hoops are on the rise. We will talk about it right here next week on the Best Wrestling presented by Charlie Hustle.